Hey there guys, welcome to this video. My name is Pushpinder Gill, and in this video we will talk about how to tackle difficult two-part analysis problems, especially for the GMAT test. So two-part analysis problems are part of the GMAT test, and they are one of the types of problems that give students the most difficult time because it involves quantitative reasoning as well as verbal reasoning. So it's a bit challenging. So what I decided is to pick up 700 level or hard level problems and just to solve those problems with you so that you can get a grasp of my thinking when I try to solve those problems. Okay. Now, let's look at this problem here, and what you can do is you can try to solve this question yourself by pausing this video, but I will go ahead and I will try to solve this video myself, solve this question myself. Okay, so let's get started. So this question here, so the first thing that you want to look at is that you want to see whether it is a quantitative reasoning question or a verbal. Does it require verbal skills or does it require both skills? So just by having a glance at the question, I can see that it's more of a verbal question. So let's read the question. It says, in an experiment, there are some children who are allowed to participate in the program. One thing that I do is that when I read verbal questions in two-part analysis is that I ignore the numbers, because in verbal reasoning, numbers are not likely to be as important as it is in quantitative reasoning questions. So it says that there are some children who are allowed to participate in program in which researchers taught them to dance. So children chose to participate for at least 1 year. At the end of the year, researchers found that children who had participated had a better balance. So this is more of a research question, and whenever there's a research question, what you can do is you can actually develop a conceptual diagram. So this question says that you have. So this is how a conceptual diagram would look like. So you have one variable which is the participation program. So which is participation in the program is actually influencing your balance, right? So which is more of your dependent variable, so which is balance here. So I'm just going to write balance. So your participation in the program is actually positively influencing your balance. So this over here is your dependent variable, which is your balance, and this over here is your independent variable, which is the participation in the program. So now the question is asking us, it would be most helpful in evaluating the researcher's hypothesis to know whether the researcher's dash, which is what the first column is, prior to having dash, which is what the second column is. So what would be helpful for the researcher to know prior to actually doing this particular study? Now, if let's suppose this is the study that the researchers have done, it will actually be good to know if they had any sort of sense of balance before. So the problem here is the problem of self-selection. What happens is, now I'm kind of deviating here a little bit. Self-selection is the problem that can arise in a researcher's hypothesis if people self-select into studies. If people self-select into studies, they're going to introduce bias into the study. So for instance, people who have a better balance are more likely to participate in the study, or people who have low balance are more likely to participate in the study because they want to learn how to better balance in their dance. So this self-selection is actually going to introduce problems to this study, and that's what this question is all about. So the question wants to know that what will help a researcher's evaluation of the hypothesis. Now, since I do research as my regular job, so I can pretty much grasp it, quickly. However, whenever you see a research related question, it's always good to draw a conceptual diagram and really try to understand what the question is asking about, and really declutter the question. As you can see, I did not really pay a lot of attention to 1,900 children and 400 children and all that. I just focused on the question itself. So let's choose the answer options here. So we want to make sure that if we can measure students' balance before making them participate in the study, that would actually be helpful, because if I know students' prior levels of balance to the study, then I will actually be able to accommodate for that, whether there was a significant increase or not. So it would be most helpful if we could, if the researchers could have tested the sense of children's sense of balance prior to teaching them to dance in the program, right? So prior to dance participation. So this would be number 1, and this would here be number 2, right? So that's what it is. So that's the answer here, right? I mean, one of the trickiest option here is this one here, because this would also make sense before even testing their ability to dance. You should have tested their sense of balance before. But this number 2, this option here comes before this, that you should not really be you should do a random assignment basically into 2 groups, because we are actually putting children in 2 groups. So group 1 is children who have not danced, group or have not participated in the dance, and group 2 is children who have participated in the dance. If there is a significant difference between both groups in terms of their sense of balance, that means that then the whole experiment has failed. Then there is self-selection in the study. So before even teaching them how to dance, you should make sure that you test their sense of balance, and then you should even out the sense of balance in both groups, a group which has received the treatment and the group which has not received the treatment. I'm talking a lot here because I'm really passionate about research. I have a lot to share with regards to research here, but I'm just going to stop here. I hope you've understood this question here. This question should have taken you 30 seconds, not more than that. And that's what it is with difficult questions. Once you get the trick, it takes about 30 to 40 seconds. Otherwise, these questions can take a lot of your time and you still not be going anywhere. So make sure that you practice difficult questions. Those are very different from easy questions, right? You cannot make your way. You cannot say if you've practiced 1,000 easy questions, then you can tackle difficult questions. You have to tackle difficult questions if you want to answer difficult questions. Okay, moving on to the next one. So this question here says, again, it looks like a verbal question. So no regards to the numbers here. What you can do is you can pause the video and try to answer the question yourself. So this question says, you've got Ashish, and he says, studies have connected the recent rise of beverage consumption and the rise of obesity. So you've got 2 variables here, again, a research related question, and they contain a lot of calories, and they consume an excessive number of calories that causes weight gain. So the argument here is that government regulations should reduce the consumption of those beverages, which would actually result in reduced obesity rates. So what Ashish is saying, I'm just going to mark him with an A, is that government regulations should actually result in lower consumption of these beverages, which should actually result in lower obesity. So that's what exactly his argument is. Now let's look what Hector is saying. So Hector says this conclusion is incorrect, so he disagrees. He says everyone should be free to consume whatever food they wish. It is the individual's responsibility, not the government. So he's not really making an argument. He's saying, let people do what they want to do. He's not really concerned about obesity here. So no argument there. That's there. So it says there is a serious flaw in each reasoning. What is the serious flaw? So what is the flaw in Ashish's reasoning? So in Ashish's reasoning, the flaw is that he believes that it is just the government regulations which will influence the consumption most. So he does not really take into regards to any other factor which could potentially influence consumption of such drinks. So he only considers government regulations to be part of them. So his whole argument relies on government regulations. On the other hand, Hector is not really making a coherent argument. So let's see whether answer options do talk about that. So the first one here is assumes without justification that stated problem can only have one solution. Well, there is no talk about solutions here. There is there is no talk about solutions in this problem. Hector is not even making an argument. So this definitely goes away with Hector. In some sense, Ashish is talking about a particular solution. So this can potentially be Ashish's answer. So let's move on if we can get a better answer option. The second one says contains reasoning irrelevant to the conclusion stated. I believe that's what Hector is doing. That's what Hector is doing because he's giving reasoning which is irrelevant to the conclusion stated. So his conclusion is that Ashish is incorrect, and then whatever reasoning he gives is actually irrelevant. Then overlooks the possibility that a factor that contributes to a phenomena may not be the main factor. So this more or less looks like, so of course Hector is gone. This more or less looks like Ashish's argument because he's the one who's overlooking any other factor besides government regulation. So this can potentially be Ashish's answer. Then takes for granted that a given factor cannot contribute to more than one phenomena. So there's no talk about more than one phenomena here. So this one is definitely not the answer for either of them. This one is definitely not the answer for this. Then confuses two distinct meanings of ambiguous terms. Well, there are no two terms in no ambiguity here. So this one is not Ashish's answer here. So if we go to Ashish, we can potentially choose from these two answer options. Now, if we consider these two answer options, the first one here is a weaker answer option than the third one, because here Ashish talks about Ashish doesn't give any doesn't really specifically say that there is only one solution, so that is a weaker statement than this one, because here Ashish is actually overlooking any possibility that there can be some other factor. So this one over here is Ashish's answer here. So we got these two answer options. So again, this was a 700 level question, and the only way, just one takeaway from this question is that do not read the answer options before you have really evaluated the problem statement by itself. So then only you go to answer options, and then you can potentially look at the answer options and eliminate the incorrect ones, and keep the ones which you believe could be the answer, and then argue within those answer options. Okay, so that was this one. So let's move on to the next one here. So these are the answers here. So which is for Hector, it's number 2, and for Ashish is number 3. Okay, so let's move on to the next question here. Now, you can pause this video and try to solve this question. So you can do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this question. So it says, at a company, employees purchase from a vending machine. I'm gonna declutter the question here. I'm not gonna read unnecessary information. So you got small tokens and large tokens. So you got a small token and you've got large tokens. And one large is equal to 5 small tokens. So large is actually equals to 5 times small, and there's a vending machine where they sell a beverage, which is, so that beverage is actually equal to 3 small tokens, right? So 3 small tokens. And if 1 large token is inserted, 2 small tokens will be returned. So that's the way it works. Now, this is the key to the question. Employees are equally likely to pay for a beverage from this machine. So they're equally likely to pay using large tokens as well as small tokens, right? And then if once the machine is serviced, it's only given 50 small tokens. So last time it was serviced, 400 beverages were sold. Now, if I use this information, that means 200 beverages were sold using small tokens and 200 beverages were sold using large tokens. So 200 were sold using small tokens and 200 were sold using large tokens. So how would you so if, let's suppose, if you pay 200 large tokens, that means you've used 200 large tokens. Once you insert 200 large tokens, for each large tokens, 2 small tokens will be returned, right? So that means if you insert 200 large tokens, you will get back 400 small tokens. So that is something that will come out, right? So that's there. Now let's talk about small tokens. Now, if you want to purchase 200 drinks using small tokens, so that means you will actually use up 600 small tokens, and out of these 600, 400 will be given back, because those were given back when 200 large tokens were inserted. However, 50 tokens were already there. So 50 tokens were already there, which means you'll have a total of 250 small tokens left. So 250 small tokens were left, and 200 large tokens would be inserted. So that's actually the answer. So for large tokens is 200, for small tokens is 250. So again, it was a difficult question, however, had a very, very simple solution to it. All you had to do is you had to pay attention to the key statement in the question, which would kind of bind the question together. And in this one, this particular statement actually bound the question together. So moving on to the next question here. Okay, so that's the answer. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Now let's take a look at this question. You can pause this video and try this question out yourself. So this question says that again, we're going to get rid of the clutter here, right? So this question says that in 1990 till 95, 2,500 copies were published. That doesn't mean they were sold, right? So let's assume that X copies were sold. By the period 1995, there was a 52% increase over sales. So by 95, the number of sales was 1.52x, because if something increases by 52%, it becomes 1.52 times itself, right? Okay, so then the question says, by this time, the book had sold these many copies, which means till this time, which means X plus 1.52x, which is 2.52x, that's actually equal to 3843. And that will actually just give us the value of X. So if we divide that, 3843 divided by 2.52, you can just use your calculator here, because you're allowed calculator in these questions. You would actually get 1525. So 1525 is the number of books that were sold in the period from 1990 to 1995. And the question is asking us to approximate. So that means the answer here is this. And then the question says that in the next period, the book sales were doubled from the previous period. So till the period '05, if 1.52x was published this year, then for the next 5 years, it will be double of that. So what's double of 1.52? That's 3.06x. And how do you get that? How do you get the actual number? So you can just multiply 3.06 into the real value of x, which is 1525. And of course, this is going to be greater than 4,000. Hence, this is going to be the answer. So, was not really a difficult question, but it's termed as difficult question. The only way to solve this question is to declutter it. Forget additional information. That's because these kind of questions have too much context associated with it, which is important to understand the question, but it's not really important to solve the question. So you got to declutter the question and just focus on the core part itself, and that way you can solve it easily. Okay. Let's see the last question, which I believe is, and these are the answers here, which I believe is a difficult question, right? So why don't you go ahead and pause this video and try this question out yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this question. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my pen to red here because I want to write here. So this question, it's almost like, a typical, it's almost in the category of being an LSAT question, but nowadays GMAT is also asking these kind of questions. So I'm actually gonna pick up a trick from the other tests that I teach, and make this question very, very easy to solve. Now, first of all, if you actually try to solve this question, which I think you should pause this video and try to solve this. If you try to solve this question, you'll realize that it'll probably take you 10 minutes to solve this question because it has too much of context in it, too much of information that you have to process and the information that you have to look at. I believe it'll take you easily 1.5 minutes to just figure out what's happening in the question. So let's just delve into that, right? So then I'll show you an easy technique to solve this question. So it says that a literature department at a small university in an English-speaking country is organizing a 2-day festival. So you've got 2-day festival here, and then there are some conditions. First condition is that there'll be 5 writers each day, which is irrelevant here. And then majority of the writers are supposed to be English. So that means out of 5 people, on one of the days, majority of the writers is supposed to be English. So that means at least greater than 2 writers will be English. And on the other day of the festival, at least 4 would be women. So at least 4 would be women. And neither day should have more than 2 writers from the same country. So should not have more than 2 writers from the same country. So the question is asking us, given this information, these teams of 4 people have already been created. So we still have to fill up 2 more slots. Which of the slots is likely to be chosen? Which of these people can be chosen for either of the days? And which of the people are likely to be chosen for neither of the days? Now, before you get into the nitty-gritty of these questions, just figure out one thing. Who is the most marginalized group here? So when I say who is the group which is not wanted, so who is the group, not say marginalized, but who is the group which is not desired, let's say, to be part of the groups? Let's just talk about that. So why don't you think that? And I've misspelled it, but yeah, I think I've spelled it right. Okay. So which is the group which is not desired? And of course, I've put up all the pieces of information here. The group which is not desired is male and people who speak English. These are the people who are not desired. Why? Because at least two non-English speakers should be there, and there should be at least 4 women. So that means the most non-desired group is going to be someone who's male and someone who's English. And the most desired group, or the most desired individuals are people who are females and people who are from other countries. So when I say other countries, countries which are not really part of these groups. So these are the people who are desired a lot. So from here, you can easily say, person who would be selected on either of the days should be the person who's desired the most. So it should be a female from a country which is not part of these countries. So which is that? So that is going to be a female. So this is a female English, no. This is male English, no. This is female Japanese. So this is the person who is going to be selected for either of the days. Because if you look at the other one, this is female but French, and you already have French people here, right? This is male, so male is not possible. This is male, male is not possible. So the most desired group is going to be a female from other countries, so who can be selected on either of the days. So that's going to be Murasaki. And who's the most non-desirable person is going to be a male who speaks English, and which is here. So Longfellow is the male who speaks English, and there is no other male who speaks English in the answer options. And that actually solves your answer, right? So I think if you try to solve this question the right way, I mean, if you were given like 20 minutes to solve this, I think you will start getting into the nitty gritty of the questions, and then you will just waste a lot of time. But this is the only way, quickest way to solve this question. And I think that's the way this question has been designed. The answer options have been designed. So that actually gives you the answer here. You can see the answers are correct. Now, just gonna summarize this question here. So in this particular question, there were some conditions given, and using those conditions given, you can figure out which particular individual is desired the most. Which is a female from other countries, which particular individual is not desired to be part of these groups, which is a male who speaks English. And then look at the answer options. It's someone who can be chosen either day, someone who can be chosen neither of the days. So basically here you have to pick up a person who is the most desired. Here is you have to pick up the person who is not so much desired, and our answer options support that particular instance, and we can get the answer within 2 minutes. Otherwise, this question will go on, and you will waste a lot of time, and then you will just either skip this question, or you would end up wasting too much time, and that would be the end of your GMAT test, because then you won't have time for other questions. So that's for this question, guys. So that would be for this video. I hope this video was helpful in solving difficult two-part analysis questions. Just make sure that you visit our website to check out more content, and I am working hard to add more and more content to the website. I will be working hard to make sure that you get content related to the new GMAT test as well, which is upcoming, and make sure that you get content that will assist you in scoring high on the GMAT test. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one.